Anchors up, sails at full. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing pretty well, Jared. Doing pretty well. How are you doing?
Doing all right. I think we have a lot to do today, Kyle, so let's not... Actually, hold on. It's becoming tradition. All the people have been asking, and it's becoming a tradition.
Well,
there it was.
You know, it's a good day, Jared. It's a good day as we're recording this. It's always a good day when Ohio State beats the living crap out of Michigan.
Yeah.
It's a good day.
It's a good day. The Ohio State basketball beat Michigan basketball in our today. But most people's yesterday. Most people's listening to this yesterday. But Kyle, we do have a lot to do today. Last year at about this time, I think we're about 13 months off from the last time we did this. We asked the question, what would the Big Ten look like in 2030? And in that episode, we basically devised a new schedule system, and we were right about some of the things, Austin. And we were right about a few things. And then there's a few other things that we just we don't know if we're right about yet. Obviously, it's a 2030 prediction. So let's actually, before we get into the new thing, let's take a quick peek at I'm going to switch screens. This is what we laid out last year. Basically, we predicted a 26 team Big Ten, 26 teams in the 2030 version of the Big Ten. And then we did a protected rivalry scheduling system where every team has 3 protected rivals. For the YouTube folk, that the board that we created on that show is currently on the I remember that episode. It was fun. It was. And by the way, I've already put it in the show notes. Every time I say I'll put a link to the old show, in the show notes, and then I never do it. It's already in the show notes. It's already there. I promise. If you go down, the last episode is actually in the notes of this episode, so you can go and listen to it if you want to. He came to class prepared, because if I don't do it before, I never will do it, is the thing. So that's on the screen. Again, for the YouTube folk, you guys can see it, but for the podcast people, it's too much just to sort of read and throw at you, unfortunately. So you can either check it on YouTube, or you can go back and listen to the old episode. Today we're doing something different. We are, sorry, I'm going to toot my own horn real quick, or toot our own horn real quick. When we created this, Oregon and Washington were not yet in the Big Ten. Just want to point that out. USC and UCLA had been. Yeah,
they were still fresh. Yeah.
Was announced. They had been announced, but Washington and Oregon had not been. And we did. And if you go back even further, we did also predict USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten a full 11 months before that news broke. So just trying to lay down some credentials here if you're a fresh listener. But Kyle, let's talk about a different system. And this is partially inspired, or maybe entirely inspired, by a post in the Discord server by one Mr. Austin in our Discord, one of our Discord moderators. He laid out a 4-division SEC and Big Ten, and I'm like, I can do better. And that's basically the loose premise of this show. We're going to do we're doing 24 teams this time. Last time we did 26, but we're trying to put it neat into 4 divisions. So we're doing 24 teams this time.
Ugh, divisions.
I know. I still like, personally, I still like the old system more. I like the 3 protected rival system. That's my preference. Takes my idea, then shits on me. Would you be surprised in any other way, Austin? So I prefer the protected rival system over the divisional system, but we're going to play podcast here and have some fun. So what we're going to do is I devised what is my proposal for these 4 divisions, and then Kyle is going to tell me where he thinks I'm wrong, and we based off of his input and maybe the chat's input might make some adjustments. Is Kyle frozen? Did we lose Kyle?
I'm here.
Are you there, Kyle? Okay, you got very grainy and frozen for a second. Just going to make sure you're okay. You're on the big screen here for a second.
Hi.
It may have been me for all I know. It may have been me. But yeah, you got very grainy and then froze up for a second. Okay. Austin's flirting with Kyle now. He's a married man, Austin. He's a married man.
All right, let's get started, Jared. Let's get started.
We're going to start in the north. First in the north, I have Oregon and Washington. Now, question
right away.
Okay.
Why are they in the north and not the west?
I mean, they're in the northwest. It was a 50-50 proposition. They could have gone in either.
I don't like where this has started already. I don't like where this has started.
One of the things I definitely tried to do in so my goals when making these, I wanted to put 2 power programs in each division. So I am trying to divide up the power. I wanted to try and keep some rivals together. I wanted it to make some geological sense, but that was not my highest priority. Having it be perfectly geographically sensical as far as the north, the central, the east, and the west, that was not my highest goal. I was much more focused on getting 2 power programs in each division and trying to keep rivals together. And Oregon and Washington are literally touching Canada and then touching the other state that touches Canada. For what it's worth.
Okay. All right. Let's see how much more wrong you're going to be here, but come on.
All right. Filling out the north, we're going to have Nebraska and Iowa. Now, is Nebraska all that northern? But again, the geographics of it weren't my biggest concern. Now, definitely northern states are Minnesota and Wisconsin, who round out the north. You don't know geography. I do know geography. I just don't care that much. It was not my highest priority. Those Iowa/Oregon divisional games are going to be barn burners. Won't they?
Man, if Iowa is north, Nebraska is north.
I was about to say, if you're going to complain about one of them, you have to complain about Nebraska.
Yeah, Nebraska.
Because you can't be mad at me for geography and then get mad at me about Iowa and not Nebraska. Just saying. Oregon going to Kinnick will be something. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Listen, I laid this out the exact way you think I should have the first time I laid it out, with Oregon and Washington in the West. But like I also had Northwestern in the North.
I mean, you might as well give that division to. You might as well give that division to Oregon then here.
What about Washington? What are you talking about? And by the way, you should have seen this division.
We'll see how Washington does now. We'll see how Washington does.
I know. They have a new coach. But I mean, like realistically speak, and by the way, Wisconsin is a very good middle of the road team. I think Nebraska is trending in the correct direction. But again, you should have seen this division before I shoehorned Oregon and Washington into it. It was a terrible division. To be fair, Washington has more playoff appearances than Oregon. They do, in fact. I'm just saying, I tried to balance the power, and there was no balancing of the power with what was essentially the Big Ten West parading as the Big Ten North. There was just no power in there. This had to happen. Otherwise, you were going to give a free pass to the North. Just some quite frankly, you're just going to hand Iowa the North every year, with Wisconsin and Nebraska maybe sometimes winning it.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Let's move on to the Central. Right off the top, we got Ohio State and Michigan. Those are our water buffalo programs in the Central.
Okay. All right.
You're keeping Ohio State and Michigan
strong there.
So keeping Ohio State and Michigan together. These are your power programs. We're going to start rounding it out here. We're going to include Michigan State, trying to keep Michigan and Michigan State together for the sake of rivalry. Then we're going to round that out with Purdue, Indiana, and Illinois.
What's your reason behind Purdue?
I needed to put them somewhere. I did want to keep Indiana and Purdue together.
I mean, if anything, at least you keeping them all together.
Yeah, I mean, I think at one point I had Illinois and Northwestern in the North. I think is how I had it at one point, but then I kicked them out to put Oregon and Washington in there, because could you have imagined a North? Actually, I think I had Northwestern in there at some point. I don't really remember. It doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, think about, by the way, we also are putting Ohio State and Illinois together for the sake of the Illabuck, as Austin points out in the chat. But I'm just saying, imagine the North if we took out Oregon and Washington and put in Purdue and Northwestern, or Illinois and Northwestern. Just look at that division.
Yeah,
shoehorning Oregon and Washington into the North had to happen. It had to happen.
Yeah, I don't have it. Yep, don't have an issue with what you have here for this Central here. So,
I mean, if we're being honest, it's Ohio State and Michigan. Mm-hmm. Sparty is sometimes good, but it's pretty basement dwellery after that. But I also think that that's kind of fair, considering Ohio State and Michigan are, at least historically, the two power programs in the entire conference. Now, of course, we're adding some heavy hitters in this prediction model and in real life. Austin says the East is probably going to be the easy division. Penn State will win it, or will often win it. Well, okay. You don't know who I'm predicting.
I think I know where Jared's going with this.
You don't know who I'm predicting into the conference in totality yet. Because while, yes, Penn State is in the East. No, Kyle. I do not have Notre Dame in the East. However, I do have Florida State. Florida State in the Big Ten East. Those are your two power programs in that division. I think FSU ends up in the SEC. Ends up an SEC school with Clemson. Maybe. There is no school where I am more 50-50 as far as I know they're going to go to one of the power two, and I feel very 50-50 about which one it'll be. Because Clemson's going to go to the SEC. Period. I think I'm fairly 50-50 on Miami as well, actually. Now that I think about it. They want the SEC, but does the SEC want them? Yes, because ESPN will tell them that they want them. And they also, it's an arms race at this point. Clemson and SEC are destined for one another. The Big Ten doesn't want Clemson. The SEC wants a football school. I think FSU prefers the Big Ten. I think so too. Florida State is a strong academic university, and there's incredible advantages to being in the Big Ten. They just aren't an AAU school yet. They just barely missed accreditation last time. They'll get there. They'll get there. All right. The East, with expansion, you have to get past the AAU at some point. I don't think you do. Now for Florida State, you might look past it, but no, I don't think you do.
Mm-hmm. So then the East, Jared, would have to be Rutgers and Maryland over there.
We do have Rutgers and we do have Maryland. Keeping that Maryland-Penn State rivalry going. Yep. Keeping that Maryland-Rutgers rivalry going.
It's to keep that Penn State-Rutgers rivalry. Let's get that straight.
I think the Maryland-Penn State has more juice behind it.
And then you got to put in UNC. We've talked about UNC for many years. I
think the Big Ten and North Carolina are very destined.
It's
almost as much as Clemson and the SEC are destined for one another. I think North Carolina and the Big Ten are destined for one another.
Mm-hmm. And then I would guess the last one is the other ACC team that would come over as well.
It is okay. First off, it's an ACC. It is ACC. I think there's three good candidates here.
Yeah,
you might be thinking
you could put in Virginia.
You could put in Virginia. Duke. You could put in Duke.
Put in Duke.
You're missing the one I chose. I will say it is a school that, for whatever reason, doesn't, especially among football fans, I don't think people realize that it actually is a really good academic institution. And in fact, did just get AAU accreditation recently. And no, it's not NC State, Austin. Not Wake.
You're not talking about another Florida team, are you?
I am talking about another Florida team.
Oh boy,
the Miami Hurricanes.
No, I sorry, Jared. Sorry, I do not see that. I do not see that. No.
They're an excellent academic university. It gives you an incredibly strong foothold into the state of Florida. Sure, if we can take Jason Taylor from them. Is that a part of the trade, like how we got Chip Kelly? I think the guy that they just signed on into the program as a pass rush specialist. I think they gave him an analyst job or something. I think he's the guy that takes over in the defensive line spot. I forget his name though.
Yeah, I just don't. I understand what you're saying about with Miami and in the in the recent research that they have, but just yeah, I just don't see. I just don't see the Big Ten doing that, especially like with all the all the issues that they've had around their athletic programs too.
Oh, let's not cast
just don't
stones,
see it.
Kyle. Let's not cast.
I mean, you're trying to bring in someone versus someone who's already in the Big Ten, though. Is the point that we're trying to get at?
What do you, I
Or
don't
that I'm trying
follow.
to get at.
I don't follow. What are you saying?
I feel that the Big Ten would go after more of Duke, Virginia. I think would be like the top two
I think
outside of UNC.
I think you can make a very strong case for both of those schools. You can make a very strong case for both of those schools. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. And in fact, had I done a 26 team conference, those are probably the two schools I add. Are Duke and Virginia. Those would be the two schools. When I had to cut this down from 26 to 24, those are the two schools that I cut.
But for sure, Jared, you weren't leaving out Notre Dame.
Well, we're going out west. Let's see who ends up in this division. To no surprise, we have USC.
That's your Cal teams. Mm-hmm.
And, we got UCLA, we got Stanford, we got California.
Yep.
Got our California teams. Our second, to go along with USC, however, in the power conference, or as the two power teams, we got Notre Dame. Notre Dame does not like to think of itself as a Midwest school.
Man, you're gonna have Notre Dame and Northwestern going way out there to the west.
Yeah. Listen, they called themselves Northwestern. This is their own fault. They already play USC, Stanford, Cal. Exactly. Notre Dame already plays a strong West Coast schedule.
I think they fly out of Chicago at least.
Yeah, no, we would have screwed Penn State if we'd have sent Penn State out there, because their airport, I think, only handles prop planes. I'm kidding, sort of. This is my proposal for a 24 team Big Ten with 4 divisions.
Gosh, like,
I hate it.
I mean, you move. In my opinion, yes, you're gonna create a division where it's just purely former Pac-12 teams, but Notre Dame, Northwestern swap out with Oregon and Washington.
There's too much power. There's too much power in that. That was my first revision.
And this
it's
is
too
why
much power
you don't
out
have
west.
divisions. Then this is why you don't have
that's
divisions.
That's not the game
then.
we're playing today, Kyle. I agree. I prefer the proposal from 13 months ago. I get 2 extra teams in that proposal. We just do 3 protected rivals per team. I prefer that system, but that's not the game we're playing today. Yes, we did, Chop. Yes, we did. That's not the game we're playing today. We're doing divisions. And obviously there's a version of this that has Oregon and Washington out in the West. And it's basically just the new Pac-6. But you would have USC, Oregon, and Washington all in the same division. And you'd have Northwestern, and even if we put Notre Dame in the North, even if we put Notre Dame in the North, if we swap Northwestern and Notre Dame for Oregon and Washington, one good color balance there. Good color balance there. But you're just handing Notre Dame a division title every year if you're doing that.
You know we're talking about Notre Dame, right?
You know we're talking about Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Northwestern, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen what the Big Ten? Have you seen what the Big Ten West has
Notre Dame
produced?
won anything?
When was the last time the Big Ten West won anything? Anyone?
Never.
In the Big Ten West?
Never.
We can't let that continue. We have to. We can't let that continue. I agree. Again, I like last year's proposal more, but that's not the game we're playing today, Kyle. 2012 and 2013. Weren't we still legends and leaders back then? Sparty beat us. Well, then that was definitely legends and leaders because both Ohio State and Michigan, or in Michigan State, are in the East. 2011 was Wisconsin Rose Bowl, and they lost to TCU. We couldn't let that many teams from the Big Ten West continuing to just swirl in a suck circle. We couldn't let it do it. We had to inject some goals, some high standards into that group. And that's what Oregon and Washington are there for. Kyle, we need to do a commercial break. If you want to avoid these commercials, go ahead and join our Patreon. You can support the podcast and avoid these commercial breaks on the audio podcast feed. You can do that for $3 a month or $32 a year over at patreon.thesloopcast.com. Here come the Spreaker ads now. Okay, Kyle. Do you have any additional things you want to cover here, or do you want to move on to my SEC proposal?
It's just hard for me seeing Northwestern in that same division, but I mean, we're I'm going
to be real honest. I just fucked over Northwestern in this.
You fucked over Northwestern, whatever division you put them in.
Thank you. Now we're on the same wavelength.
Now you're just screwing with them on traveling.
Meh. I'm sorry. Something had to break somewhere. Like it was never going to be perfect. And I wasn't going to I wasn't going to let the Big Ten West continue to just be terrible all the time. All right, let's move on to the SEC. All right, Kyle, we have the Gulf Coast, the Wild West, the South Coast, and the Central. Where would you like to start?
Gulf Coast sounds like fun.
Northwestern went 8-5 last year. Yes, they did that in the awful Big Ten West. That is not because Northwestern was good. It's because the Big Ten West is terrible, which is why we need to inject some life into those teams and couldn't just let that division continue to be terrible all the time.
All right. The Gulf sounds like this would be your power division then.
Just the same way with the Big Ten, I tried to divide up the power. I did my best to divide up the power the best I could. I did my best to preserve rivalries the best that I could. The geography might get a little wonky here and there because that was not my highest priority.
Mhm.
But
I would assume the Gulf Coast would have like LSU and Alabama and Auburn.
yes, yes, and yes. Designating Alabama and LSU as the two power teams in that division. Rutgers in the West. So are you just proposing that I just screw over Rutgers instead of Northwestern? Northwestern's already halfway there.
Oh, let's see. Oh, how many? Three more? Two more?
Three more.
Three more. Three more. So I would guess maybe the Mississippis.
The Mississippis.
Ah, oh, look at that.
Kyle knows his geography. I'm just going to give you this one because I don't want to spend a lot of time you trying to remember that Arkansas exists.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
It's just, they're just one of the more forgettable teams in the SEC. We weren't going to spend a lot of time. This one felt very natural.
That one's fair.
This felt very natural.
Natural. Yeah. All right. All right. Let's do the South Coast then. I'm going to move around here with you, Jared, but
that's okay.
South Coast sounds pretty straightforward for a lot of them. I would assume that would be like Florida and South Carolina.
South Carolina. You've not named either of the designated power teams yet. Although Florida definitely one of the better quote unquote third teams for sure. Kyle, you're missing an incredibly obvious one.
Georgia's not a coast.
Kyle, they aren't all going to literally be on the coast. The state of Georgia's on the coast. I get that Athens isn't, but the state is. He meant Athens, Zach.
Yeah. I would say probably some new schools in here, like Clemson. I think Clemson will make sense in here. Look at that. Jeez. Jared has not shared this with me, so. Tennessee?
No. See, Tennessee's okay. At least all of these, the state is on the coast.
Vanderbilt.
No.
Or Vanderbilt, right?
Nope. All of these, the
Vanderbilt's
state
not there.
Nope. I'll give you a hint. Neither of these teams are currently in the SEC.
Oh, okay. I think this would make sense where Miami goes.
This is probably where Miami would have gone had I not put them in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm. So I would guess
there is
NC
water
State.
Near Georgia. Athens is on a lake.
Do you have NC State going to?
I do.
The SEC.
There's the Wolfpack.
All right. And then I would guess Virginia Tech.
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Who's the last one?
Georgia Tech. You had the wrong Tech.
Okay. All right.
You had the wrong Tech. Yeah. So that's Georgia, Clemson, Florida, Georgia Tech, North Carolina State, and South Carolina.
Georgia Tech going 0-5 every year here.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. The Gamecocks are pretty bad sometimes, too.
That's true.
But yeah, no, this is going to be a rough go for Georgia Tech, for sure.
This almost seems like especially the way these past few seasons with Clemson and Florida, this seems like a sure division for Georgia.
You have to figure that either Florida or Clemson should be up in any given year. Even if we can't count on both of them to be up every year, one of them should be up in any given year. And I also say, like, this has pretty decent depth. No, it doesn't. I mean, because like There's a very clear bottom and top half in this division. Very clear. All right, Kai, do you want to go Wild West, or do you want to go Central?
Sure, this sounds like everybody in Texas and Oklahoma.
It's very Big 12 coded. It is very Big 12 coded. Michigan can kiss my bottom half.
Very Texas A&M, Oklahoma.
Nope, not Oklahoma. Again, Kyle, remember, I'm trying.
You are not going to. You talked about rivalries.
I did.
How could you not have Texas and Oklahoma, Jared?
Because my first priority.
How could you not have Texas and Oklahoma?
My first priority was division of power.
Well, then that's Texas and Oklahoma. Done. And if you say Texas A&M, you are full of shit.
Well, Texas is the clear power team here. And then much like with Clemson and Florida, like in the South Coast, there's maybe not a clear second team, but there's two very good teams here in 2 and 3. Texas A&M and
I guess it would have to be a new school then.
It is a new school. Very good team from the Big 12. Even if they weren't very great last year in particular, I still think that they're a strong program.
I guess that's the purple Froghorns over there, right?
Yes, sir. That is TCU. Then
I guess Baylor.
No.
Is Baylor on here?
No Baylor. Remember that
I'm going to guess Missouri. I'm going to guess Missouri is in here.
Yes. Remember that Missouri was in the Big 12 not that long ago.
Yep. Would you throw in Kentucky as well, or maybe Kentucky would be Central?
Kentucky's Central. These next two teams are. I'm going to give you a hint. They are currently Big 12 teams, barely.
So Oklahoma State.
No, I kept Oklahoma and Oklahoma together, or Oklahoma State and Oklahoma together in the Central. We went out west for this one. These are technically Big 12 schools, although.
Are you doing Kansas State?
I am not. Go west. Okay. Go west, young man. Go west. Get some recruiting territory.
BYU?
No. Not that far north. West, but not north.
Texas Tech?
No. We have Arizona State and Arizona. We're getting some recruiting territory.
Right. I remember that conversation.
Getting some recruiting territory here. Arizona's producing more and more good players. You're going to spread that footprint out a good bit. A lot of people. Arizona's a very fast growing state. So it's a lot of eyes. It's a lot of recruiting territory. I don't know if either of these teams are going to be super competitive right away, but it is what it is. So this division is you have like a very clear number one, but you have 3 very good next rung teams. Texas A&M, TCU, and Missouri are 3. Neither of them might be like a true power program the way Texas is, but you do have 3 very good teams. Again, trying to balance our power a bit.
Yeah. I still think Oklahoma should be over there, but
I mean, they can still do a protected rivalry game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
all right. So Central obviously would have Oklahoma, would have the rest of the SEC, Kentucky and Vanderbilt and Tennessee. Yeah, Tennessee is just getting screwed. Tennessee's getting screwed with all of their rivalries.
Yeah. It's in my defense, literally everybody in the SEC is a rival. Everyone's a rival with everyone else.
All right. So you got two more teams. So I'm going to.
Everyone is Minnesota in the SEC.
All right. So two more teams. These are new teams, I would guess.
Yeah, you really should already have one of them. I already told you who one of them are in a previous. If you just take a look at the board, you currently have Oklahoma, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky.
I'm trying to think who else we talked about. It wasn't
who did I say was automatically coming with Oklahoma?
Oh yeah, Oklahoma State.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have an additional team. Would you like to know which conference they're coming from, at the very least?
Sure.
They are coming from the ACC. ACC. You did guess them at one point. I'll say that.
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech. The Hokies.
God, this is a pure. So you got Texas is the clear favorite in the Wild West, and Oklahoma is even more so the clear favorite in the Central.
Yeah.
I feel if you're trying to really balance this off, the Gulf Coast is heavily weighted more.
I don't think so. You got to remember Nick Saban's gone. You got to remember Ole Miss is good right now, but they're not historically like a power program. Like, I know that they're good right now, but let's not be too now focused. And LSU's just a very sporadic program. They are sometimes amazing and sometimes dog shit. Auburn sucks most of the time. Mississippi State sucks most of the time. Arkansas sucks most of the time. I don't think it's that great of a division. If anything, I would say the South Coast is a really strong division. I don't know if anyone goes three deep quite as hard as South Coast goes hard. That Georgia, Clemson, Florida trio is a lot. One of the things I sort of figured out in putting this together is actually like how strong the Big Ten is now compared to the SEC. When you actually break it, when you actually start to break it down,
the schools that the Big Ten would be bringing in. Yeah, I mean, Oregon and Washington. Okay, you can compare those to like Texas and Oklahoma. Sure. I mean. Okay, let me rephrase that. Oregon and USC. Let's just say Oregon and USC are like Texas and Oklahoma. And then Washington past few years has been pretty good. Notre Dame has been just a blue collar or a not blue collar, just a I cannot think right now, Jared. Just another blue team, football team here. I think for the teams that the Big Ten is bringing in here, definitely a lot more firepower, especially if they can get Florida State. Yeah, no brainer.
And I am leaning.
I still have a hard time seeing. Big Ten going to get Florida State, let alone Miami.
Florida State is, I'm like 55-45 Florida State going to the Big Ten versus the SEC. They're going to leave the ACC. That's going to happen. They're going to go to the Big Ten or the SEC. That's going to happen. The Big Ten, to this point, has been much more aggressive in pursuing teams than the SEC has been. Now, with Florida State on the table, that might change. It's going to have to change. They can't let the Big Ten into Florida. But I think it's the more desirable location if you're Florida State. Especially if you're trying to get into the AAU, you start rubbing some shoulders with the Big Ten members who make up a good chunk of the AAU voting block to get admission to the Big Ten. Not that that helped Nebraska.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
When Florida State announces to whatever side they're going, Jared, whenever it's going to be, it could be soon, could be a year from now. I mean, I anticipate it to be pretty quickly. I don't know how quick it would be. Definitely within the next 2 years. Definitely. Maybe next year. Within the next year, they may just announce to go somewhere.
When the ACC teams decide that they are able to, and when I say that, I mean legally, because there's lawsuits about TV rights and yada, yada, yada. There's all this stuff, right? When they decide they are able to, I would not be surprised if you saw a ACC immediate exodus.
Yes, I definitely see that. Yep.
I would not be surprised if you just immediately see Florida State, North Carolina, Notre Dame, and then another ACC school join the Big Ten. I said Miami in this. Maybe it's Virginia. Maybe it's Duke.
I think Virginia.
Maybe. Well, maybe. I'm not going to put my flag down real hard on any one of those three. I'm not going to do it. But it'll be one of those three. It might be more than one of those three, quite frankly. And eventually, because don't forget, Stanford and California are also technically ACC schools right now, somehow. I do think they eventually end up in the Big Ten as well. We actually got confirmation a few weeks ago that the Big Ten wanted Stanford and California. But Fox wasn't going to increase TV money to do it. Because like when the Big Ten brought in USC and UCLA, the Big Ten said, Fox said, here, have some more money. You added additional product, we will give you more money. Mm-hmm. Same thing happened with Oregon and Washington. Big Ten says, we have Oregon and Washington. Fox said, here, have some more money. But when the Big Ten said, we want Stanford and California, Fox said, we're not paying you for Stanford and California. And that's when that fell through. Because the rest of the Big Ten didn't want to split up their profits with two additional teams. Splitting up your profits is very easy to do when Fox is footing the bill, because you're not really splitting up your profits at that point. So can we, for the old heads in the room, can you talk about how fun it would be to have Notre Dame and Miami in the same conference?
Yeah.
Just saying. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to put my foot down on Miami. Again, it might be Virginia. It might be Duke. And again, it could be 26 teams and it could be all three of them. Kyle, let's do one more ad break. If you want to avoid these ad breaks, you can become a patron over at patreon.thesloopcast.com. It's only $3 a month or $32 a year to get ad-free versions of the show, to get early access to the show, get premium access to our Discord server. This entire episode was born out of the Discord server. As I told you at the beginning of the show, these are the type of conversations that we have in the Discord server, and now here we are. So if you want to avoid these ads, patreon.thesloopcast.com. Here are the ads now. I guess my point I was trying to make, if this plays out the way I expect it to play out, look at the top two teams in each of the Big Ten divisions: Oregon, Washington, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Florida State, USC, Notre Dame. Only two of those are projections, by the way. Only two of those are projections. Look at the top two in each division in the SEC: Alabama, LSU, Texas, and then take your pick between Texas A&M and TCU. Georgia, Clemson, Oklahoma, Tennessee. The tides are shifting. Big Ten's going to be on top here soon. The Big Ten has been more aggressive in expansion. And I know there's a lot of people out there that really want the Big Ten to go get Clemson. I'm just telling you that's not going to happen. It's not a culture fit. It's not going to happen.
No. Nope. Clemson will not happen. No.
Not going to happen. What if over-aggression backfires? Again, Fox has been willing to pay them. There's no real backfire there, in my opinion. I mean, the backfire is that, like, we're all risking kind of ruining college football, to be honest.
I mean, if the Big Ten does go down to Florida, I mean, that's a big area. That's a big area that they have zero presence
right
now. I mean, they got the New England states, got that. They're going to get Virginia, North Carolina, for when UNC would come over. Okay, that's another good TV market. You go down to Florida, yeah, it's a no-brainer. There's no backfire if Florida State would come to the Big Ten. That is so much more money that the Big Ten would be rolling in on.
By the way, all of one of the other things that sort of was the catalyst for doing this show was the news that broke this week. I'm actually going to go ahead and hop off of the screen. News broke this week that a 14 team playoff is coming, not a 12. Although I don't think this will take effect this year. So we might only have a 12 team playoff for 1 year.
I think it's for the next 2 years.
Is it next 2 years? 2 years?
I think so.
And then we're going to a 14 team playoff, which is one too many in my opinion, but no one asked me. But I think the surprising news is that one team on each side, but two teams in total will get a bye. And that those two teams will be the Big Ten and SEC champions. Currently, Clemson, Florida State, Notre Dame, although that's really it at this point, TCU have no ability to earn a bye week. None. Only a Big Ten and SEC team can earn a bye week in the 14-team playoff. Additionally, 6 of the 14 spots will be going split evenly between the Big Ten and the SEC. 6 auto qualifiers for the two conferences. including exclusive rights over the bye weeks.
You get the bye weeks from your top 2 teams, I assume. The top 2 teams.
The winners of the
bye
Big
weeks?
Ten and the winners of the SEC.
Okay.
Like it's. I think it's specific.
And then 4 other teams.
Well, no, it's 6 in total.
Well, yeah, and
so it's
6 in total. Those 2 and then 4 more.
Oh yeah, we keep jumping back and forth between talking each conference in total. Yeah, my bad. The current ACC
and honestly, for all the teams we just mentioned, shouldn't there be more?
Yes.
for the teams that we just announced here.
Yeah. Because not only so like the Big Ten and the SEC are getting 3 auto qualifiers each. The ACC and the Big 12 are getting 2 auto qualifiers each. They don't have that many good teams left, especially in the Big 12. The ACC, you can at least say, well, Florida State and Clemson. But like, who are your 2 auto qualifiers going to be from the Big 12? Oklahoma State and TCU? Kansas State, Baylor, Cincinnati,
Houston.
I almost put Houston in the SEC, not going to lie. Yeah, it's people are complaining about like the Big Ten and the SEC either overstepping or appropriately stepping to secure real estate but quite frankly, 2 teams auto qualifying for each the ACC and the Big 12 at this point. That's a pretty good deal if you ask me. Because I went through last year's numbers. Those teams don't get 2 teams each if we're just going by the top teams. Notre Dame is guaranteed a spot if they place in the top 14, which feels like a weird thing to write into the contract considering of course. And a additional conference champion, a group of 5, if you will, is guaranteed a spot in the playoff, which leaves either 2 or 3 non-auto qualifiers, wild card spots, at large spots, if you will.
You might as well just give those to the Big Ten and SEC then.
Well, Notre Dame is guaranteed one of those spots if they finish in the top 14, which again feels like a weird thing to say because of course they would.
I'm curious.
But if Notre Dame finishes in the top 14, they're guaranteed one of those 3 spots. But yeah, those other spots are going to be dominated.
Final rankings.
If you scroll up in the Sloopcats only page, I actually did this already.
Wow. So if you go back to since 2015, yeah, they would have made it every year other than the 2022 year.
Every year but the 2022 year. But yeah,
here's where's that at? Here you go. Yeah, if you're going off of,
well, those would be end of season ranks and not. But yeah, I mean, I get your point regardless.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm probably. Oh nope, there it is. I'm gonna hold on real quick for me. Save Let me throw this in the chat. I'm going to throw this in the chat. I'm going to talk while I throw it in the chat. That's going to be too small for anyone to read in the chat, but based off of the final college football playoff committee rankings, so this is before the bowl games, these are the committee's rankings, you would have had, and I obviously projected everyone into their modern conferences. Your 3 auto qualifiers from the Big Ten would have been Michigan, Washington, and Ohio State at 1, 2, and 7. Your auto qualifiers from the SEC would have been Texas, Alabama, and Georgia at 3, 4, and 6. Your Big 12 representatives would be Arizona and Oklahoma State at 14 and 20.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are telling me the SEC and the Big 10 overstepped? The Big 12 is getting 2 auto qualifiers at 14 and 20. The ACC's 2 auto qualifiers are Florida State and Louisville at 5 and 15. Notre Dame is not guaranteed a spot because they finished at 16th. So your 3 at-large teams would have been Oregon from the Big Ten, Missouri from the SEC, and Penn State from the Big Ten, getting the final, well, I guess not the final, well, yeah, the final at-large spot at number 10. Leaving Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and LSU at 11, 12, and 13 on the bubble. So just to point this out, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Well, not 14, because we still would give Liberty the final spot. So not 14, because Liberty was the highest ranking champion from a group of 5, right? So you essentially are losing Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and LSU in order to shoehorn Arizona, Louisville, and Oklahoma State into the playoffs under this system. And you're telling me the SEC and the Big Ten overstepped?
Nope.
No.
Not based on last year's.
Listen, you could have an 8 after the SEC and the Big Ten eventually break away and make up their own rules. We gave you the divisions. The winner of each division plays in a 4-team playoff. The winner of the Big Ten and the winner of the SEC play each other. And you have a 4-team playoff in the North, a 4-team playoff in the South. And then the champions play each other. So you have basically an 8-team playoff. You don't need any committee rankings. You don't need a committee. You don't need polls. You settle it on the field. 4 division champions, 2 conference champions, 1 national champion. And if anyone doesn't like it, too bad. Too bad. That's where it's going. It may not be an 8-team playoff. It probably won't be an 8-team playoff. It'll probably be a 12-team playoff. There'll probably be at-large spots in there. But that's where we're going. Any final thoughts, Kyle?
I still think you're crazy for splitting up Oklahoma and Texas, but we're just splitting hairs.
All right. So
what if Miami would go to the Big Ten?
What if I split? No, I like it. I like it. Because once again, the problem I was talking about before, if you put Texas and Oklahoma in the same division, you're creating one really good division and then creating another division where your power teams are going to be Tennessee and TCU. It's not great. There isn't a perfect solution.
Look at your proposal for the Big Ten.
All right, I guess we're doing this
with Ohio State and Michigan.
But I have 2 power programs in each one.
Let's just say let's look back historically, before the last 2 years, like before Michigan started
being good again,
started cheating.
Sure. Same thing.
That's just Ohio State. That's just Ohio State.
I mean, and the North is just Oregon if Washington doesn't go through their coaching turnover well. And if Florida State is really hammered by their recruiting sanctions, then that division's all Penn State. If Notre Dame, the coaching situation there doesn't get figured out, that division's going to be all USC. Like, there's only so many teams to go around. And you just sort of hope that one of the other teams, your Nebraska, your Michigan States, your North Carolinas, your UCLAs, that someone steps up and is really good in a year in which the other team isn't.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's just about putting the two power programs in each and then trying to get some sort of even covering with the other ones. That's what it is. That's what I got for you.
Okay.
Do you want me to redo all of this, but just using colors? This will be the red division. No. This will be the orange division. This will be the yellow/gold division. This will be the purple-blue division.
No. You need to have one division that's all Tigers.
Well, I could do a division that's nothing but Bulldogs and Tigers. We could. Wait a minute. That's achievable.
We're not. Let's not do that, Jared.
It's achievable, Kyle. Come on, we're only 10 minutes over. We can do this.
10 minutes.
We can do this. No, I'm kidding, of course. All right, Kyle. Hey everyone, come join I already plugged we're over. Discord.thesloopcast.com, Patreon.thesloopcast.com. Hey Kyle, do you have anything in Kyle's corner?
No, other than Ohio State on that hot streak in basketball. I mean, we'll see if they can finish off winning on the road, which they are on a 1-game winning streak on the road, Jared. If they can do it to Rutgers and actually win a couple of games in the Big Ten tournament, maybe
what?
They might be able to get the bid here.
The bid for what?
It's fun. The tournament.
Which tournament?
The tournament.
Kyle.
It honestly all depends on how well they do in the Big Ten tournament. It really does. If they only win 1 game, 2 games, if they only win 1 or 2 games, no, they gotta make it into the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament. And if they make it that far, then there should be definitely a lot of conversations then about them being on that bubble to get in.
Kyle. Are you actually entertaining the idea that Ohio State could make it into the tournament?
Yes. There is a shot.
How much of a shot? Give me a number.
Right now, I'd say like a 33% chance right now.
You're high.
No?
We need to end the show. We're gonna move on, and we're gonna end the show. Right. Nope, not gonna engage. Tonight's ending music is "Sink the Ship." Tonight's ending music is by a Cleveland-based pop punk hardcore band called Sink the Ship. So with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support local podcasters. Once again, this is Sink the Ship.